And we are live. Hey, how's it going? It is your muscle building coach, Lee Hayward, with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding live video chat for Friday, April 26th. And the way these video chats work, if you're brand new, I want to welcome you. And the way it works is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour and answering questions that you may have about bodybuilding and fitness, exercise and nutrition, any specific challenges that you may have when it comes to getting in your best shape. Feel free to post those in our video chat window there, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out during our video chat today. And make sure to stay tuned to the end of the chat today, because I have a special little announcement that I want to share with you. And this is a surprise training that I'm going to be doing, and it can help you, especially if your goal is building muscle while burning off that stubborn body fat at the same time. So if you're in that situation, especially for more geared towards older guys like 40 plus, but the training that I'm going to do will apply for pretty much anybody, but it'll work especially well for guys who are in that 40 plus range. So make sure to stay tuned to the end, and I'll tell you more about that. So I'm just going to get a couple things organized on my end. For those of you who are tuned in live right now, please let me know in the video chat if you can hear me, if you can see me, if this is coming through loud and clear. I always want to do that little audio video check to make sure that I'm just not talking to dead air out there, that you can actually hear me and see me and it's all coming through good. So let's see what we got here. Loud and clear, loud and clear, loud and clear. All right, thank you so much. Do appreciate it. Okay, let's just I'll organize things on my end. All right, let's see what we got. And we have UDUC Full joining us. Sean is joining us, and he's got a question about tricep exercises. And he's also got another comment there saying, at this stage of my life, he says, you probably don't care, but do you think you'd ever max out again just for fun? All right. Let's cover that in order. Tricep exercises. What are some good tricep exercises? One that I like a lot, and that is, it's not a direct tricep exercise, but anytime you do heavy pressing exercises, like heavy bench presses, heavy shoulder presses, push-ups, dips, anything along those lines where you're doing heavy pressing, that is a good tricep exercise. Now, it's usually not a direct tricep exercise, but it's a really good secondary tricep exercise. And what I've found in my own training over the years is that as I've gotten stronger in pressing exercises, my triceps have gotten bigger. It's a good direct correlation, right? If as I've gotten stronger on the bench press, my triceps got bigger, and if I get stronger on the overhead press, my triceps get bigger. So you're direct. You're even with push-ups. You know, if you can bang out more push-ups, your triceps are going to respond. So I find that is one of the best things. Pressing exercises work the triceps in that mid-range compound mass building move, right? You know, we always talk about the compound moves. Pressing exercises are good. Now, there are a lot of different ones, right? I mean, you can do, like a lot of people refer to like a close grip bench press as the tricep move, but for that matter, all your pressing exercises are going to bring in the triceps to a good degree. Close grip tends to emphasize the triceps a little bit more, and a little tiny bit less emphasis on the chest in terms of the bench press. But again, chest, shoulders, triceps come into play regardless of the pressing variation. Other than that, some other ones that I'm a big fan of, cable pushdowns, all different variations, whether it's a straight bar, an easy bar, a V bar, a rope, all those different cable tricep press down variations. I like the tricep press down because you can really use strict form and relatively heavy weight, because it's one of those moves that you can really get a good pump in the triceps. So I'm a big fan of those. I always have been. I find they're a really good one. And when I'm doing press downs or push downs, whatever you want to call them, I like to go through a full range of motion. So when you're doing them, make sure that you let your forearm come all the way up to fully stretch out the triceps. And so some people only stop when their arms are at 90 degrees. And I find if you do that, it kind of like places a lot of jarring stress on the elbow. and you're not fully stretching out the tricep in the bottom range of motion. So I always, when I'm doing a push down, I come all the way up until my forearm and biceps lock up at the top, and then press all the way down for a full lockout, and really make sure to emphasize that full range of motion. Another one that's kind of an underrated exercise, but I've found that it's helped me a lot, especially back when I was competing in bodybuilding, and that is tricep kickbacks. Now, a lot of people question the benefit of a kickback because it's an isolation exercise. You're not really lifting a lot of weight. What's the point? But it's a really good lockout exercise. It's a good one for really getting a good peak contraction in the triceps. So I would do that as a finishing move at the end of a tricep workout. Really do high reps. Sometimes, 15, 20, 25 reps, just high reps, and really burn it out at the end of a workout. Do 2 to 3 sets of high rep kickbacks. And I found that it was really good for building that shape and definition in the triceps. And from a competitive bodybuilder or a physique competitor, that's important, because you want to have, when you lock up your triceps, you want to have the good, nice definition and lines there. So that was another favorite exercise of mine. Those are some three good ones that you can definitely work on. But bottom line, I mean, you need to play around with these exercises. Those are some of my favorites, but you may try those exercises and they may not necessarily work for you. And this applies to all body parts, all exercises. Just because you see one person doing a particular exercise and responding really well to it doesn't necessarily mean that you are. Now, it's certainly an opportunity to try it and see how it works, but don't get frustrated or don't assume that just because this exercise is a good one for Joe Blow, that it's going to be a good one for you. I mean, prime example, and I'm kind of going off on a bit of a tangent here, but a bit of a rant, but it's a good lesson here. Like a lot of people look at some bodybuilders who are have really strong body part or really good at a particular exercise. Prime example, like Tom Platz when it comes to squats, right? He was a master of squats, and if you look at his form, it was impeccable. But a lot of people can't squat like that. Can't squat like Tom Platz did, with a very narrow stance, keeping his body almost perfectly upright. And it was just like a piston going up and down with the squats, full sinking those squats, ass to the grass every time. I mean, it worked for him, but when you look at his body type and his structure, it's different from a lot of other guys. I remember a few months ago, I was actually training with a gentleman who's a really tall guy. He's over 6 feet tall. And he had a lot of trouble doing a full squat. Like I'm only 5'6", so I mean I can get under the squat and I can vary a squat ass to the floor, no problem. But this other guy who was taller, I mean almost a foot taller than I was, he had a lot of trouble doing a full squat. So obviously we have two totally different body types, and the way our bodies are going to respond to certain exercises are going to be different. So you need to take that into consideration as well. Just because someone gives you their 3 best exercises or their favorite exercise for a particular body part doesn't always mean that it's going to be the best one for you. You really do need to have a bit of that trial and error in there and see what your body responds to the best. So just a long answer for a simple question. Moving on again, we got another one. This one saying, Lee, I know you're probably past this stage in your life. You probably don't care, but do you think you'll ever max out again for fun? And I assume you mean like powerlifting style, 1 rep max lifts. And it is kind of something that I'm not as interested in anymore, but I wouldn't say that I would never max out. I mean, I still push myself within my own limits, but I'm aware of those limits. I have a better sensory acuity when it comes to my body and my limitations. And as I'm doing certain exercises, and I'm increasing the weight set by set, like I just know, okay, that this is as heavy as I'm going to go. Like I can feel if I push it any harder, maybe I'm going to pull or strain something that I don't want to. So simply just training for more numbers on the bar is not as big a priority, but I still try and push myself within my own limits. But will I ever do powerlifting or something like that again? Probably not. I'll never say never. I mean, who knows? I may. But Not in the near future, put it that way. It's something that I'm definitely not interested in the near future. We have Chris is joining us. Sean is saying, Lee, can you tell a joke? Oh, by golly, can I tell you a joke? No, we'll leave it at that for now. Boynage, I think, is joining us. Michael's joining us. Jesse is joining us. I said, okay, Boynage, it's actually Ross. Okay, left a like, thank you. Sean saying, coming through loud and clear. Jesse's joining us. All right, Jesse has a question. When trying to lose weight, is it better to cut out fruits and dairy or have them in moderation? Oh, that's a good question. Really good one. Okay. Back in the day, I and many other bodybuilders would cut out fruit and dairy when trying to lose weight and get ripped. And pretty much every competition that I've done, that's what I have done. I've cut out all fruit, all dairy in the last 3 months prior to a competition in order to get ripped. Now, with that being said, do you have to cut out fruits and dairy? And I'll tell you where I actually heard the whole idea of this. I remember reading an article back in the early 90s about nutrition, and it was published in one of the magazines like Flex or Muscle Mag or whatever, but I can't remember the exact magazine it was, but I know it was a published article in one of the popular magazines, and they were talking about nutrition, and someone was saying that if you have fruit in your diet, it's going to cause you to gain fat, even if your calories and your macros and everything else equal out. And I took that to heart at the time, right? I really did. So they were saying, like, if you're eating, say, 2,500 calories and protein, carbs, fat, everything stays the same. If you were to swap out like 300 calories from rice and swap it with 300 calories from fruit, you're going to gain fat. And that was what they had in this article. And supposedly in their test group that they had, people were gaining fat even though they're eating the exact same calories, the exact same carbs, the exact same macros, just because they swapped out rice for fruit. And I mean, I didn't know any different. This was before the days of the internet, so it's not like you could cross-reference or verify it or whatever. So I kind of took that to heart and said, oh, wait, fruit must be fattening, so I avoided fruit. Nowadays, I've seen and heard of a lot of bodybuilders who do the complete opposite. They actually prefer to have more fruits and vegetables in their diets because of it's a high nutrient food. I mean, well, look at fruit. I mean, there's a lot of nutrients in fruit, right? I mean, there's fiber, vitamins, minerals, enzymes. It tastes good. You know, there's a lot of good stuff in fruit. Yes, there is sugar in there in terms of fructose and other sugars as well, but it's high in fructose. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's actually good for the liver. It helps to replenish liver glycogen. And now I've actually seen the switch where you sometimes have bodybuilders actually purposely putting fruit back in their diets and still getting great results, still getting in shape. So when it comes to losing fat, I don't think it's so much the foods, but the overall calories. You can't get around that. Like, regardless if you're following a ketogenic diet, if you're following, a typical high carb, high protein, low fat diet, or intermittent fasting, or 6 meals a day, or whatever type of diet, whether it's paleo or vegan or God knows what, who knows, you can't get around the calorie equation. If you eat too much, you're going to gain weight. It's as simple as that. If you are in a calorie deficit, then you're going to lose weight. I mean, that's where it comes from. So when it comes to fruit and dairy, personally, I would keep them in moderation. Now, you can make better choices. One that I'm not a huge fan of is straight up milk, like whether it's skim milk, 2% or whole milk or whatever. I'm not a big fan of milk, and the reason for that is because milk is primarily lactose, and a lot of people may have some issues digesting lactose, and it does tend to make it like if you consume a lot of lactose, it does have like water retention type of properties. Like, it does kind of make you feel a bit bloated and puffy. And I think a lot of it may be due to some dairy allergens or whatever from that lactose. If you are going to consume dairy, I would prefer to have like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, or even some hard cheese in moderation. I mean, dairy does have a lot of vitamins and minerals, and it's a great source of calcium, great source of protein. Again, tastes good. And it's something that you can have in moderation, but I would recommend going for the more concentrated, higher protein sources of dairy. Again, cottage cheese, the Greek yogurt, those are my two go-to dairy sources. And sometimes I'll have a bit of hard cheese in moderation. And same thing with fruits. I mean, I love fruit. I find that is my, if I eat fruit on a regular basis, that kind of satisfies my sweet tooth. So then I'm less tempted to go and eat, not so good sweets in terms of processed sweets. So I think you can definitely have it in moderation, and it's the way to go, right? I mean, keeping things as simple and natural as possible. I mean, one thing that blows my mind, I'll see some people will cut out fruit, cut out dairy and everything else, and do that, say, like 6 days a week, and then maybe have 1 day a week where they're going to have a cheat meal, and then they're going to eat chips and cookies and cakes and crisps and all kinds of garbage. But then they'll justify that because, oh, this is my cheat day. I'm allowed to eat whatever I want on cheat day. But then for the rest of the week, like, oh, I can't have a piece of fruit, or I can't have, some Greek yogurt because, or whatever. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like, you need to look at the bigger picture of what's going on. And I think fruits and vegetables and dairy can be a solid part of the diet plan, assuming that you can digest the dairy, of course. I mean, if you're totally lactose intolerant, then, you can eliminate it. That's not a problem. But fruit, I think that should be definitely in most diet plans. Yeah, I personally eat fruit every day, and I really enjoy it, and I actually look forward to it. And I think if I were to diet for a competition again, I'd try it. I think I would even stick the fruit in there and just make sure that everything's in check. Your calories and your macros and that are in check, so that you're in a slight deficit. And I think you would still be able to get just as lean, even if you did include moderate amounts of fruit. I mean, speaking of that, I know I was reading The Vertical Diet by Stan Efferding. I got a copy of it a few months ago because, I mean, it's all over the place. There's a lot of interviews and stuff, and he's a lot of videos where he's talking about it. And in that Vertical Diet book, that's one of the things that he does recommend is fruit in moderation. And because of just the health benefits of it, I mean, it's good for the liver. It's just the vitamins, the minerals, the potassium, all that good stuff. So again, I think it's definitely worthwhile to include in your diet. All right, let's move on. Try and bang through a bit more of these questions. I know I sometimes get chatting too much on some of these topics. It's because I got a lot to say. That's all it is. Neil's joining us. The Smoking Gun is joining us. He's asking, are push-ups a good way to build the upper body? If yes, how do I keep progressing? Push-ups are fantastic. I love push-ups. Even before I got into bodybuilding, how I started was doing push-ups and body weight exercises. Like when I was in martial arts, I did a lot of push-ups. Back in the day when I started getting bullied in grade school, I said, you know what, I'm going to build myself up so the bullies don't pick on me. And one of the exercises that I started doing from a young age was push-ups. And I love them. I think they're a fantastic exercise. And as far as progressing, just build up the volume. I mean, there are different push-up variations, right? I mean, obviously you can do your standard push-ups. If you're a beginner, you can do them on your knees, or maybe you can do them like leaning on a rail or something like that. But you build up to just your standard push-ups on your toes and on your hands. You can elevate your feet to work more of the upper chest, kind of like puts you in a position almost similar to an incline bench press. You can do one-arm push-ups. There's all kinds of different push-up variations: wide, close, medium. You can play around with your hand positions. But the key to progressing with push-ups is just build up the volume. That's the key right there. One of the things that I used to do a lot, and I haven't done it so much lately, but one of the things that back when I was competing, a finisher to my chest workout was always to do 100 push-ups. That was like standard. Every time I finished training chest, did the bench presses and the flies and the pec deck and the cable crossovers, all that kind of stuff. And then at the end, the very last thing I would do is I just hit the floor and I would bang out 100 push-ups. And I would do as many sets as it took in order to complete that 100 push-ups. Right. I mean, it could be like 4 sets of 25, 5 sets of 20, 10 sets of 10, or whatever. I mean, I just basically keep going until I banged out 100 total push-ups. And I found that that was a phenomenal way to really pump a lot of blood into the chest. And it worked well. That was one of my favorite exercises. Still is. I love push-ups, and that's the key with them, is just build up the volume, right? I mean, you look at some guys like Herschel Walker, right? You know, former NFL star. I mean, he built an incredible physique doing high repetition body weight exercises, push-ups and sit-ups and squats and pull-ups and all these basic body weight exercises. And high reps, like he would work up into the thousands of reps over the course of the day. So I mean, you can build it up, right? Just do high volume and make really good progress. All right, let's see what else we got. We've got Turbo RT joining us, EZ joining us. Lee, what are your thoughts on RPE? I'm not sure what you mean by RPE. There's so many different acronyms out there. I wish people would just say what it is. Hang on, I'm going to do a quick little Google search here and I'll see what the heck an RPE is. Rating of perceived exertion? If that's what you're referring to, RPE, maybe it is. I'm going to assume that's what it is because that's the first thing that popped up in Google. Rating of perceived exertion. I've heard this referred to. I mean, a lot of people use it when they're monitoring cardio or something like that. For example, you know, you can go by your heart rate or you can go by your rating of perceived exertion. And they try and make it out in this fancy chart and you know, categorize it. Oh, the different intensity levels. But man, you don't need to have some fancy chart. Like, you can just feel your body. Like, you know, if you're how hard you're working or if you're not working hard. Right? I don't need to have a chart or a heart rate monitor hooked up to you, like, and see that someone's gasping for air and about ready to pass out, or if somebody's just casually scuffing their feet and not putting any effort in there. So I really don't put a lot of emphasis on it in my own training. I mean, I like to just use your own determination of your rating of perceived exertion, right? So I mean, again, I'm assuming that's what your acronym is. It could stand for something totally different here, but you don't need a fancy chart to know if you're working hard enough. I mean, you can feel in your body if you're working hard enough or not. And with that being said, you don't always have to kill yourself in the gym in a single session. What I focus on is the progression over time. So, I mean, I would much rather see someone, especially someone who's new to training, to be a bit conservative, to purposely do easy workouts initially. And then as they get more comfortable, as they're building up the consistency and the volume, they can also build up the intensity gradually over time. It doesn't always have to be, you know, starting off from scratch and then busting your ass and killing yourself day one. You know, take it easy and just build it up bit by bit by bit by bit. And then over the course of, you know, several weeks and several months, you'll be surprised at just how much, you know, your work capacity and fitness level can improve without really forcing it that hard. It's just the consistency over the long term. I mean, it will make huge progress for most people. Okay, let's move on. We have Frederick's joining us. Okay, what pre-workout supplements have you used in the past? I know you took a month off caffeine, but what pre-workout products have you been using in the past? Okay, pre-workouts. For years, my pre-workout of choice has just been a cup of coffee. That's all it was. And I mean, sometimes especially if I was getting ready for competition, it would be the caffeine and ephedrine stack, right? You know, and sometimes I would even have that with a cup of coffee. So even a little, you know, double up on the caffeine along with the ephedrine stack. And that was my pre-workout for years. You know, before we even had the supplement category of pre-workout, you know, a lot of guys were doing that, taking caffeine in terms of coffee or caffeine pills or the whole caffeine ephedrine stack. And then some of the different various fat burning combinations, which obviously had some caffeine in there. I mean, all those things, anything with some sort of caffeine base would be used as a pre-workout, long before we had the the pre-workout concoction category that we see in the supplement market now. Then, of course, when pre-workouts came around, a lot of people were switching to those. And, I've tried different ones over the years, and it's I can't really say that, one really stood out better than the other, or for that matter, even worked better than the coffee or the caffeine and ephedrine. I mean, those worked well. But right now, like you mentioned in your question, I've actually taken this is actually going on 5 weeks now of no caffeine and feeling good. And actually did a workout today, no caffeine. I mean, well, for the past 5 weeks, I haven't had any pre-workout caffeine. What I find now that I need to get myself amped up for the gym is when I go to the gym now, I really have to pay attention to that pre-workout cardio. And I actually use just spinning my wheels on the treadmill or the elliptical or the rower or whatever I'm doing for my pre-workout cardio. I use that to just get my body moving and to really try and elevate my heart rate and to use that as my pre-workout, because I find if you just move your body, that gets everything circulating. It helps to elevate your endorphins and elevate your metabolism and get your core body temperature elevated. I mean, it gets you similar effects that you would if you were taking something like a caffeine type of product. So, I mean, that's what I do now is I really emphasize that pre-workout warm-up, try and get a sweat going before I even hit the gym floor. And I find that does the trick for me. So sometimes I'm actually feeling like I'm dragging my ass in the gym, like I'm a bit tired now. But after 10 minutes of good cardio prior to my weight training, where I get my heart rate elevated and get a light sweat worked up, I find that's enough to get me back into the zone, if you will, and have a good workout. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I'll never go back to using pre-workouts or caffeine again, but right now I'm enjoying the break. I am, and I think it's better for me in the long term. And another thing I've noticed since I've stopped using caffeine, I haven't had any muscle cramps or anything like that. I mean, you've probably seen some of my videos in the past where I've recommended, like really increasing your sodium and your potassium and your electrolytes. And part of it is because, well, if you're consuming caffeine, that is a natural diuretic. Well, it's not necessarily natural because caffeine is technically a drug, but it's a diuretic. So I was having that diuretic effect and obviously losing a lot of water, losing a lot of electrolytes. So I'm not losing as much fluid and electrolytes now that I've cut back on the caffeine. So I find that I haven't had any cramps or anything like that I would very often get when I was consuming high amounts of caffeine. So, I mean, that's another plus there as well. So, yeah, I mean, as far as pre-workouts, I mean, what are some that I've tried in the past? I remember like Gaspari had one, Super Pump, which was popular back in the day. There was a lot of other brands of pre-workouts. I can't even remember the names of half of them. Horsepower was one. I don't even know who made it. There was a lot of nitric oxide pre-workout products back in the day too that I played around with. Hit or miss results, but honestly, nothing really stands out in terms of amping me up more than just a plain old cup of coffee. I mean, I found that was just as effective as most of the pre-workouts out there. All right, let's see what else we've got. What are the health benefits of green tea? I drink that every day. Green tea, man, there's Google searches. Seriously, there's so many websites and articles and stuff talking about the benefits of green tea. I mean, from a bodybuilding and fitness point of view, it's really good for your metabolism. It helps aid with fat burning, and it also helps with your mental and cognitive function. But if you want the information, I mean, there's so many studies and articles and stuff. I mean, I'd just be trying to rehash it. But again, just do a quick Google search and you'll get it. I'm a huge fan of green tea. I mean, I drink a couple cups of it a day for sure. I've actually started drinking a decaf green tea. And honestly, I don't notice any difference between a regular green tea versus a decaf green tea. So, I mean, green tea in and of itself doesn't have a lot of caffeine anyway. I mean, maybe 20, 30 milligrams, depending on how strong you make the tea per cup, whereas a cup of coffee could have 100 to 200 milligrams of caffeine, depending on how strong you make the cup. So it's only got like maybe a tenth of the caffeine that coffee would, or maybe a little bit more than that, but still very, very low compared to what coffee has. But there's a lot of health benefits to green tea for sure. I actually recommend to a lot of people who are trying to cut back on their coffee consumption to swap out green tea for coffee, or at least some of the time. You know, especially if you like to drink coffee later in the day. I find swapping out green tea, especially later in the day, can help with that. Another benefit to drinking green tea, and this is one that you know, a lot of people probably don't realize, but it's good to drink green tea anytime you're eating fish and seafood, because green tea, there's chemicals and stuff in the green tea that actually block mercury absorption. So sometimes, you know, like a lot of people saying, oh, mercury in seafood, you don't want to consume too much mercury, blah, blah, blah. Drinking green tea whenever you have seafood can help to block some of that mercury absorption from entering your body. So I always, whenever I have fish, like even if it's as simple as a can of tuna at home, I usually have a green tea with it. Anytime I go out for sushi or something like that, I always love to drink green tea with my meal. And if I'm having any type of fish, I usually have green tea with that meal, just for that benefit alone. I mean, not only do I enjoy drinking the green tea, but it also, you know, has that extra side benefit as well. All right, Woodulos is asking, can guys over 50 still gain muscle if they train hard and eat well and still have decent testosterone levels? Yes, you can still gain muscle. I mean, there have been studies done to show this, but you can probably use your own research on this. I mean, I was at the gym today, actually, and I was chatting to a gentleman who was 71. And tell you, man, he looked pretty damn good for 71, right? I mean, he was lean, he was fit. I mean, he didn't look like a bodybuilder, but I mean, I was surprised when he told me he was 71. I would have guessed, you know, maybe late 50s, you know, early 60s or something like that. I mean, he definitely looked a good 10 or 15 years younger. So weight training, definitely, man, it's like a fountain of youth. I mean, it'll keep your fitness and health up, but you can still build muscle. Now, it's not going to be the same as like someone in their teens or their 20s, where they're bulking up and packing on like pounds of muscle. But you can certainly gain more muscle than the average 50-year-old, right? I mean, if you look at someone who's 50 years old and working out on a regular basis, and someone who's 50 years old and not going to the gym at all, man, there's two totally different physiques, right? So yeah, regardless, you can make good progress. And as far as the testosterone, that definitely helps. I mean, if you have a healthy level of testosterone and all your metabolic hormones for that matter, your thyroid and your growth hormone and all that, that helps. And if you don't have that, it's good to go get it checked by your doctor. And, you know, if necessary, look into hormone replacement therapy. You know, I know a lot of older guys now who are doing that. And every single person that I've talked to who have started using hormone replacement therapy has said it's made a world of difference for them. They feel better. They've got more energy. Their workouts are improved. I mean, there's so many health benefits to having optimal testosterone levels. You know, we always hear the negative side effects or the negative things about hormones, but that's when they're used in excess and used, you know, basically abused. It's not even used, it's abuse. But if you can put yourself in a healthy hormone level, I mean, there's so many health benefits. I mean, there's more health risks to having too low of testosterone than having too much, right? I mean, so I think having healthy hormone levels is a plus. And if you're not sure, get it checked out. I mean, when you go to your doctor for your regular physicals and blood work and all that kind of stuff, ask them to check your testosterone. Because as stupid as it is, a lot of doctors will not check testosterone unless you request it. Like, they'll look at your cholesterol and they'll look at your, you know, your iron and you know, all these other markers, but you know, but they won't check your testosterone levels. It's nuts unless you specifically ask for it. So you know, when you go to your doctor for your next checkup, blood work, whatever, specifically ask them to check your testosterone levels, get them to check your thyroid, get them to check your growth hormone, all that stuff. All right, let's move on. Ross is joining us again. He says, Lee, I have a workout routine at the minute designed to build muscle. I attend the gym 4 to 5 times a week, 4 times doing my workout and the other time going on the treadmill to improve my cardio. Do you think you could help me precisely arrange my workout routine? I'm 16 years old and determined. Well, it seems like you've got a decent setup in place. One thing I would recommend, especially for someone who's trying to build up, I would not recommend working out for more than 2 days on without taking a day off. So if you're doing 4 workouts a week, split it up something like maybe a Monday, Tuesday, take Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, and then take the weekend off. Now, if you want to do some cardio on your off days, that's fine. But try to not work out with weights more than 2 days in a row before taking a day off. Or if you want, you could even just do 1 day on, 1 day off. I find that works really well for guys trying to build up. When I was younger, one of the mistakes that I made is I was so eager and full of piss and vinegar that I would work out every day. And I thought that, you know, if a day that I didn't work out was a day wasted, right? I just said, I could work out every day. And sometimes it was 2 and 3 hours a day. It was just, you know, obsession because I didn't know any better. I thought, you know, the more you worked out, the more muscle you're going to build. And I just kept pushing myself. But it was only when I started reading, it was actually when Dorian Yates came on the scene, you know, and all of a sudden he was just destroying the bodybuilding world back in the mid-90s. And this was, you know, when I was a teenager, throughout the early 90s, doing these daily 2-hour a day workouts. And then Dorian Yates came on the scene. And of course, Mike Mentzer had a lot of articles in the magazines. And they were talking more of the higher intensity, allowing time for your body to rest and recover and grow between workouts. And this was like, whoa, you actually need time to rest, recover, and grow. I thought you just needed to train more. So I actually purposely started to scale back on the frequency of my workouts. And lo and behold, I actually started to make some really good progress. And the best gains that I ever made in terms of size and strength was working out every other day. So work out 1 day, take the next day off. Work out 1 day, take the next day off. And having that full 48 hours of rest between workouts allowed me to go to the gym feeling strong, refreshed, recovered. And I just, instead of feeling depleted and drained, I actually felt, you know, excited and strong. So, I mean, it was total game changer for me. And even now, I mean, I usually stick to that. Like sometimes I'll go 2 days in a row and then take a day off, but more often than not, it's day on, day off. And I find that is just a good, healthy schedule for most people. And, you know, it allows adequate time for not only your muscles to recover, but for your joints, tendons, and ligaments. And this is important for guys who are 40, 50, 60, and beyond. The older you get, the more time you need for your joints, tendons, and ligaments to recover, right? It's not just muscle recovery, because sometimes your muscles can be recovered, but you get those achy joints. And a lot of times it's from you're not giving your joints enough time. So I find that adequate recovery is one of the best things. So if I were to give you a tip on that, that's one of the tips I would definitely give you. But if you want a more specific advice, like if you would like to chat about your individual routine and get some help, maybe like with a customized diet and training program or anything like that, shoot me an email. Send me an email to leeh@leehayward.com. So that's leeh@leehayward.com. And I'll be more than happy to chat with you, and we can, you know, lay out an action plan that's right for you. All right, Michael is joining us. He says he finishes the Blast Your Bench program today, and he's going to max out on May 3rd. Thanks for starting a channel. Oh, sorry, thinking of starting a channel soon. Any tips for getting started? Whoa, that's a loaded question. That's a loaded question. If you're interested in starting a YouTube channel, I have an amazing resource to share with you. It's something that I'm actually following right now, and it's kind of still too soon to see the changes in my own channel, but I'm learning things about YouTube that I did not know before, and it's actually mind-blowing, because when I started on YouTube, like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, literally how I started was I was just posting random workout clips, right? That was it. There was no rhyme or reason. I didn't even know, I mean, that you could build. I mean, there was no such thing as like building a business on YouTube or becoming a YouTuber back when I started. It was just literally a place to host a video. And now it's evolved, and it's continuing to evolve so much. So it's hard to keep up. I mean, I'll be honest, it is hard to keep up, and I'm doing my best, but I am, you know, struggling to keep up with all the changes and stuff like that. But I found an amazing resource. And if you are thinking about starting a channel, again, send me an email and I'll share that with you. So again, leehayward.com. Send me an email and just put like, well, just tell me what it is that you're trying to do. Put YouTube in the subject line and I'll share that resource with you. Okay, let's see what else we've got. Okay, some chatting going back and forth. Red Hook MMA is asking, what motivated you to start bodybuilding? Well, what motivated me in the early days, I guess, the whole thing to start working out, because in my case, and I guess anybody who is a competitive bodybuilder, there's two different things. Like some people refer to simply going to the gym and lifting weights as bodybuilding because you are building your body. And that is the true sense of bodybuilding. But then you have the competitive bodybuilding side of things where, okay, now you're bodybuilding as in terms of building your physique for the stage. Two totally different things. What motivated me to start bodybuilding in terms of going to the gym was when I was in grade school, I used to get picked on and bullied by the bigger kids. And that was my main motivation, right? I had low self-esteem, right? Just was shy, getting picked on and bullied. You know, if you're, you see it all the time in school, right? If someone, like the bullies, they look for the weak, right? They can sniff them out. They can sniff out the people who are shy and self-conscious and weak and the people who are not going to stand up for themselves, and they take advantage of them, right? So they'll go in and they picked on me. I mean, it wasn't too crazy. I mean, yes, you get pushed around and stuff, and people grabbing you by the shirt collar and slamming you up against the lockers and humiliating you. But I never really did get like a serious shit knocking. Thank God. I mean, I never did. But I got, it was to the point where I was humiliated and embarrassed. And I used to hate going to school because I, you know, afraid to walk down the hall because like who's going to grab me and try and, you know, bully me and whatever. So it was very intimidating going through grade school. And that was my main motivation to start working out, right? How I actually got started was I started doing some body weight exercises at home, but myself and my dad, we actually joined a martial arts club. It was a local karate club, and we did that for several years. And my whole idea is I wanted to learn karate so that I could kick the shit out of anybody who tried to bully me. So did that for several years. Myself and my dad used to go together, right? It was like a family club. And unfortunately, my dad got in a car accident when I was, you know, fairly young, still in grade school. So when he got in the car accident, he had to stop going. And of course, where we were going together, when he stopped, I stopped. So around the time that he stopped going, we stopped going to martial arts. That's when I really got more into working out at home. So I got some exercise equipment, you know, like the home gym and stuff, and started working out at home, building myself up with weights. Then I actually found another martial arts club from some other guys in school, rejoined martial arts, stuck with it for 5 years after that, really loved it. And as I was doing martial arts, I was also working out with weights. And at the time, my second martial arts instructor, he also worked out with weights. And so we'd sometimes work out together, and, you know, he'd share some tips with me and stuff like that. And he knew some of the local powerlifters and that in the area, and kind of hooked me up with training programs and things like that from some of the powerlifters. So that's where I really got more serious into weight training. And then when I was 16 years old, I remember I was flipping through a copy of Muscle Mag International, and they had a section in the back of there where they featured Canadian bodybuilding, like different Canadian bodybuilding shows. And lo and behold, they had a feature page there where they featured the Newfoundland Provincial Bodybuilding Championships. And they featured the 1994 Newfoundland Provincial Bodybuilding Championships. And I was like, whoa, this is so cool, because I didn't even know like we had bodybuilding, right? Because again, this is before the internet and all that, so we never had resources like you do today. So I was like, whoa, we actually got bodybuilding competitions here. This is so cool. So the next year, I entered the Newfoundland Provincials, because what I did then is I went around to all the supplement stores, all the gyms, to get as much information as I could from people who were in the industry, and I found out the date and the venue and everything else for the bodybuilding competition, and I tried to get as much help as I could from people who had offered suggestions on dieting and tanning and posing and all that kind of stuff. So I slapped together a pre-contest diet, and I did my very first show at 17 years old. I was a senior in high school at the time, and that's where I started into competitive bodybuilding. And from there, met a lot of the bodybuilding community is a good one, because I find that when you get into that niche, especially, I found like even before the internet days, it was kind of like even more of a close knit, because it was hard to communicate with people. So when you did get a chance to meet up with people, you really made good friendships with these guys. So they were really willing to take me under the wing, because I was the young guy. So they took me under their wing and helped me with my training, helped me with my pre-contest dieting and posing and all that kind of stuff. So through that, I basically got really involved with the bodybuilding community, and I competed pretty much. Oh, how many shows did I do? I did 13 shows, and we had one show a year most of the time. So it was over 13 years. I did take some time off while I was going through college and stuff, but I did 13 competitions, and man, it was my goal then, once I started competing, was just to improve upon the previous year's competition, and eventually I wanted to win a provincial title, which I did do. Back in 2007, I won the light heavyweight and the overall at a provincial competition. But yeah, I mean, that's what motivated me. The early bug, if you will, the early motivation factor was bullying. I wanted to be bigger and stronger than the bully so that they would leave me alone. And that's what got me involved with bodybuilding. And then, of course, once I got into the competitive side of things, then it was doing it for the sport, right? I wanted to improve. So every single year when I'd show up on stage, I wanted people to be able to say, whoa, look at the changes that he made from the previous year. And that was my motivation then, to just keep improving and hopefully eventually win an overall title at provincial championships. All right, let's move on. We have Jesse is joining us. He says, I was able to get my hands on a tractor tire and a sledgehammer and plan on using it on my off days. How would I structure a proper workout for it? Different ways to go about that. One thing I will suggest is this is intense. It's a lot of, it's a different type of exercise if you've never done it before. So start off very slow. And what I would actually do for someone who's new to this, I would save it as kind of like a finishing thing to do at the end of your workouts. So for example, after you come home from the gym, that's when you can go out and do a little bit of sledgehammer work as a finisher. And the reason why I would actually prefer to do it at the end of your workouts is because you're already warmed up, and I wouldn't recommend doing this cold. So if you are going to do sledgehammer work, always warm up in advance or do it at the end of your workout when you're already warm, and go easy at the start. Just work on the technique and just build up the volume gradually. Take it and almost exaggerate the slow process. Like it's going to feel very like there's not much happening at first, and you want that. You want to have that slow initiation into it, because if you try and do too much too soon, it's so easy to pull or strain or pop something, right? Purposely pace yourself, and it's sometimes hard to do, especially when you're excited and you want to try something new. It's hard to pace yourself and hold back, but it's important to do that. It's important to purposely pace yourself and then leave yourself room to progress, and then try and just make that gradual progression, workout after workout, week after week, month after month, in that sort of fashion. I mean, as far as different programs are concerned, there's different ways that you can go about structuring it, but bottom line is I would just use it simply as it is, just alternating sledgehammer swings just for the explosive aspect. I mean, if you can try and get into doing different exercises with the tire, like flips and stuff like that. But if you are, make sure to be careful. I'm speaking from experience. I have a torn left bicep to show for it. That's always going to be shorter than my right, you know, from trying to flip a tire that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So, yeah, you want to definitely be careful of that. Injury prevention is the key when it comes to this stuff. All right, let's move on. We have Steve is joining us. We have Kyle is joining us. Is it true that leg extensions are bad for your knees? Oh, jeez, oh God. No, leg extensions are not bad for your knees. I mean, the leg extension machine has been around for decades. I don't know when it started, but it's as old. It's an old machine. And there have been bodybuilders who've been doing leg extensions for decades. I've been doing leg extensions for over 20 years, and it's still one of my favorite exercises. So no, leg extensions are not bad for your knees. What is going to be bad is if you push beyond your means, right? So like a lot of people use too much weight and they use crappy form and to try to swing and use momentum. But if you use a moderate weight and you use a muscular contraction, so you're actually muscling the weight up under control and flexing and squeezing your quads, I mean, it's very safe on the knees, right? It's actually very therapeutic on the knees. I've rehabbed knee injuries using light high rep leg extensions. So no, it's not a bad exercise. It's just the way that you go about it. I mean, if you do any exercise with crappy form or too much weight or whatever, I mean, it's going to put risk of injury on your body. But if you lift within your means, use proper form, I mean, it's a very safe movement. And it's another thing that's safe about it. It's one of these exercises where, you know, there's really no risk of serious injury. It's not like, you know, like with a bench press. I mean, you can get stapled to the bench with a bar across your chest, or squatting, you know, you're stuck in the bottom of the squat with a loaded bar on your back or something like that. With a leg extension, you know, if you rep out to failure, it's no big deal. You know, you just stand up and get off the machine. Like, you're not going to get pinned or stuck under a heavy leg extension. So it's as far as safety goes, it's one of the safer exercises that you're going to do. And it's a great isolation exercise for the quads. You know, I mean, if you're not doing it, I mean, you're leaving one of the best isolation exercises for your quadriceps out of your routine. You know, I mean, from a bodybuilding point of view, I don't think there's any bodybuilders out there who do not do leg extensions, right? It's definitely a good one. All right, let's move on. We have Sean L saying, I don't know what the heck he's going on with. I think he's been smoking something. He says, Lee, when I lift, I imagine ridiculous things like I'm strong enough to bench press the moon or preacher curl Halley's Comet. Have you ever done that while lifting? Is it a psychological thing? No, man. I haven't tried to bench press the moon anytime. You know, that's all you, dude. Moving on. All right. With a clean diet and good training, roughly how long would it take to drop body fat from 18 to 13%? A good benchmark that you can shoot for, strive to lose about 0.5% to 1% body fat per week. You can do that. That's realistic. I mean, 1% per week is on the aggressive side. 0.5% is more manageable. But in that range, 0.5% to 1% body fat per week. If you're, you know, you're doing it. You're doing your training. You're doing your cardio. You're eating a calorie deficit. You're keeping things clean. That's a realistic number to shoot for. Okay, we have LMNZ. I'm 38 years old. I feel like my testosterone levels are getting low. Any advice? Get them checked by your doctor. Simple thing. I wouldn't mess around with it. Get it checked by your doctor. See what your testosterone levels are. I mean, you feel they're low, but are they really? You know, is it there something else? Is there some other underlying issue? Get some blood work done so that you can actually see. I mean, because sometimes it could be some other vitamin or mineral deficiencies that could be causing you to feel low energy. Like some very common vitamin and mineral deficiencies that people have, like vitamin D. A lot of people are deficient in that. The B vitamins, a lot of people are deficient there. You know, magnesium, zinc. A lot of times guys are deficient in these as well. So go get some blood work done and see where you're at in terms of all these things. And you know, if needed, you can look into supplementation or hormone replacement therapy or whatever. But that's what I would start with. And we have SHR4N did a super chat donation of £2. Thank you much for the donation. I do appreciate it. I don't know, did you have a question or anything? He says, or sorry, not £2, €2. I use dollars, right? So I'm used to the dollar sign. So I think that's a euro sign on that one. Again, thank you again so much for that. I appreciate it. And he says, thanks for everything you do. Greetings from Germany. And he's got a question saying, what are you doing to get glutes in shape, hamstrings doing all the work? All right. A lot of times glutes and hamstrings kind of go hand in hand when you're doing exercises. Like if you're doing squats, you know, especially full squats, you're going to work glutes and hamstrings. You're doing leg presses, you know, you're going to feel glutes and hamstrings. So yeah, there are some specific more glute dominant exercises if you want to focus on that, if that is a trouble area. One thing that you can do, I actually have this exercise shown in my video that I made not too long ago, was a home gym leg workout. And we did frog humps, which is basically a glute bridge variation, a really good one. Glute bridges, another phenomenal exercise for building up the glutes. Anytime you do like a kickback, like a glute kickback, sometimes you might have these machines at your gyms where you do like a single leg kickback or something like that. That's really good for the glutes. Lunges, especially if you go deep, are really good for the glutes. Another thing that you can do, it kind of sounds a bit weird, but it works really good. And this is what I would do, especially pre-contest when I'm trying to tighten up the glutes and the hamstrings, is like you can do this throughout the day or even like in between sets at the gym or whatever, but just like squeeze your butt cheeks and like, you know, like squeeze those suckers almost like you're trying to crack a walnut in the middle or something, right? But you squeeze your butt cheeks and hold it there for maybe 10, 20 seconds where you just squeeze as hard as you can, but do that regularly. So like while you're doing your leg exercises, like say your squats or your stiff leg deadlifts or whatever, leg presses, in between sets, just stand up and give them a squeeze, right? Squeeze your butt cheeks hard in between sets. And what this is going to do is just help create more activation in the glutes, help to build more tension. And then when you actually do the exercises, you get more of a mind-muscle connection there, and there's more blood flow and muscle activation. So you will actually literally get more muscle stimulation. I mean, this applies for any body part. Like if you're training chest and in between each set of your chest, you purposely, you know, like almost do like a most muscular and flex your chest and then do your next set of bench presses or your next set of flies. You're going to get more muscle activation in your chest. You know, if you're training biceps, if you squeeze your biceps in between sets, you're going to get more muscle activation in the biceps. So same thing with your glutes, right? You can do that. And that definitely helps. As far as exercises are concerned, deep squats, leg presses with your feet high and wide on the foot plate. So that's going to place more of the emphasis on the hips and glutes, a little bit less strain on the knees. Lunges, step ups, really good exercises for those stiff leg or not stiff leg deadlifts, I should say Romanian deadlifts. I sometimes make the mistake of referring to one as the other. And I actually made a video talking about this not too long ago, the difference between a stiff leg and a Romanian deadlift. But Romanian deadlifts are really good exercise for your glutes, especially if you incorporate squeezing your glutes in between sets, so you get more muscle activation there. And if you do that, I think that should help. You know, I mean, those are some really good ones that you can definitely do. Let's see what else we got. Do you think, this one's from Granny Spinner, do you think Steve Laureus, I think it is, was Robbed in the Arnold. I didn't even see that, so I honestly I don't know. I have to be honest. I haven't been following professional bodybuilding lately. The last time I was at shit, when was this? I think it was 2012 was the last time I went to the Olympia, or was it 2013? One of them. But I haven't been to like either one of these major competitions, like the Arnold or the Olympia, in over 5 years. And quite honestly, in the last 5 years, I haven't been following it as much because I'm not competing myself anymore. So I'm not following it as much as I used to. Like I used to be a big fan, like following it just like any sports fan would follow their favorite team. I was following my favorite bodybuilders, but I don't know. It's not the same anymore. I'm just kind of focused on doing my own thing now. I'm not really focusing on the sport of bodybuilding as much. All right. Robert's joining us. He's saying, what kind of cues do you use for the Romanian deadlift? My back isn't rounding towards the ground, but I'm overarching too much and my legs are getting, and the back, I'm overarching too much and my back gets fatigued. Okay. What kind of cues do you use for Romanian deadlift? My back isn't rounding towards the ground, but I'm overarching. I mean, the lower back is going to come into play with the Romanian deadlift, big time. So I mean, if you find that your back is getting fatigued, it could be a sign that you do have a weak lower back and it needs to be strengthened. Another great exercise to help with that is hyperextensions. That's a good one. Actually, I know we were talking about glute exercises before. Hyperextensions are also really good for the glutes as well. Good for the whole posterior chain, the lower back, the glutes, and the hamstrings. But yeah, you can do hyperextensions to build up your lower back. Without actually seeing your deadlift, it's kind of hard for me to offer any specific advice. But I will suggest that you go back and check out the video that I posted a while back covering the difference between the stiff leg and the Romanian deadlift. It's if you go through my videos, it was posted maybe a couple months ago or something like that. But just do a search for Lee Hayward stiff leg versus Romanian deadlift, and you'll find it. And in there, we cover the differences, but I really go into the technique tips for the stiff leg deadlift and what you should look for and what you should try to do. And hopefully that'll help. And if you have any other questions besides that, if you want, you could actually send me a video clip of yourself doing the Romanian deadlift, and I could give you some more specific critique technique tips, and maybe even make a video like I did for that one. Because that video that what I did is I took one of my coaching students sent me just a cell phone video of himself doing the deadlift, and I broke it down. I said, okay, this is what he's doing. I broke it down in slow motion and actually bit by bit. I said, okay, this is where his form is breaking down, and this is where he needs to tighten this area up, and blah blah blah. And then went into showing the proper way to perform the exercise. So if you would like a video breakdown like that, send me a video of yourself doing the exercise. And even if I don't get around to making a YouTube video of it, I'll give you an email critique of it nonetheless. So, because I do get a lot of emails, and I don't have a chance to make video requests for all of them, but sometimes I do. But again, if you'd like to do that, just email me at leeh@leehayward.com, and I'll be more than happy to give you a video review of your technique. All right, Unknown Warrior is joining us, saying, hope you're doing well, Lee. My question, if you can find the time to answer, can I follow a low-carb diet and still see gains? Okay. That's kind of a tricky one because obviously low-carb is generally in the lines of fat loss, but can you lose fat and still build lean muscle at the same time? Technically, yes, and it really depends on what level you're at in your training. A beginner, absolutely. You can lose excess body fat while building lean muscle. That can happen. The more advanced you get, like again, I keep referring back to this, but if you're looking at like a competitive bodybuilder, if they're trying to get peak shape for a contest, they're not going to build muscle at the same time, right? Once you start to get from from lean to ripped, that's when you have to probably sacrifice some lean muscle in the process in order to bring out maximum definition. But for the average person who's just trying to lose their gut and get in shape, you can lose excess body fat while still building some lean muscle in the process. I mean, absolutely, you can do that. Now, with the low carb diet, I mean, yeah, it can be done. I'm not a huge fan of low carb dieting personally. Now, again, I'm not knocking it or saying that it doesn't work or that some people don't follow it and love it and get results, but I personally have always made my best progress by following a well-balanced approach where I try and have like a third protein, third carbs, and a third fat. And I find that when I balance out my macros like that, strive for that 1/3 ratio of each, it just, I feel better, I have more energy, and I just feel that everything functions. If I have an offset ratio where I go really low carb or I go really low fat, or even if I go really low protein, it just messes me up. I just don't feel or function as well. But if I have things in balance, I just feel that the body functions and works the best. Now, that's the way it works for me. I mean, I know it works for a lot of people, but you do see some extremes, right? You do see some people who do function on very high carbs, or some people who function good on very low carbs, but they tend to be more of the exception and not the rule, right? People who are on these outskirts. Okay, let's see what else. We got Mohammed joining us. Lee, how do you keep track in the gym, even if you have bad times, feel depressed? How to encourage yourself against these bad moments? Oh, so how do you keep yourself on track in the gym when you're going through bad times and feeling depressed? Now, I mean, this is a loaded question, right? Because, I mean, obviously, I don't know what's going on in your particular situation while you're having bad times and feeling depressed and everything else. I mean, sometimes it's just, you know, you're down on your luck or whatever, or you're just in a slump. Other times it could actually be a medical issue, right? So, I mean, I'm not trying to make light of this or anything like that, but I mean, if this is something serious, get some professional help, right? I mean, if this has been going on for a long time and, you know, you're stuck, seek professional help. Go talk to your doctor, talk to somebody, and get some help on this, because, you know, that's some serious stuff. Now, if it's just you're going through a motivational slump and you're like, I don't feel like going to the gym today or whatever, one of the things you usually just have to kind of suck it up and do it. You know, that's as simple as it is. You usually just have to suck it up and do it. And one of the things I find for a lot of people is they're making the task of going to the gym too big in their mind, or too grand. And what I mean by that is they're overthinking and they're trying to make it more than it has to be. Like, if you haven't been to the gym in a while, either, you know, a few weeks, few months, few years. Okay, you hear my son out there running around. That's fine. He's doing his thing. If you haven't been to the gym in a while, don't make it any, like, just show up. I don't even care what you do when you get there. I mean, you could go do 10 minutes on the treadmill, go do a little total body circuit on a few machines, and walk back out the door. I don't, like, you could be in there 30 minutes total. Boom, in and out. Just get in the habit of going to the gym on a regular basis. And I really don't care what you do when you're there. But once you can get comfortable going to the gym, being in that environment, you can always elaborate on the workouts, add more exercises and everything else, but just keep it simple. One that I often recommend is doing just a basic total body workout. And, you know, you maybe just do one exercise for each major muscle group, 3 sets each. You know, the first set, very light warm up. Second set, a little tiny bit heavier, like a progressively heavier warm up. Third set, use a weight that requires you to exert a little bit of effort to get 10 reps, but you're still not training to failure. And just do that for each exercise. So 3 sets, 10 reps, 1 exercise per body part. Go through it, maybe 30 minutes tops, boom, out the door, right? Just keep it simple. Don't try and overthink it or overcomplicate it. Don't go worrying about, oh, well, what about this and that? And, you know, how do I isolate my inner chest and my outer sweep and my lateral head of the deltoid? And who gives a shit about that? Just get to the gym and exercise. Don't make it any more complicated than that. And I find that if you can just simplify it and get yourself into the habit, it gets easier. Right? Once you get that momentum going, it does get easier. If you have a friend that you can work out with, that'll make it easier as well, because sometimes it can be a bit, this is kind of works both ways. Like some people actually like to go to the gym by themselves and have that personal me time. Others like to have a friend or a buddy to go with, so they can kind of make it a little bit of a social event, and to rely on each other for a bit of moral support. So if you find that you're struggling to go to the gym on your own, then hey, see if you can go with a friend. I'm sure you must know somebody in your circle of friends who goes to the gym on a regular basis, and see if you can tag along with them and go to the gym. And that can just help make it more fun, more enjoyable. Other things that you can look into, sometimes like group classes, anything that you can do to just make it easier, just take advantage of it. But it will take a bit of willpower initially to get that ball rolling. And in order to do that, you just basically just have to like suck it up and just do it, right? Don't think about it, just do it, get it done. And the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. I mean, I know it's kind of an oversimplified approach, but it's true. The more you do it, the easier it's going to get. All right, let's move on. We have YOLO Draw saying, haha, you're a legend, Lee. Oh, thank you for your... I don't know if I'm a legend or not, but I'm still around. There we go. Thank you for your comment. I do appreciate it. We have Ju-On saying, whatever it takes, gotta okay, I think he's commenting somebody else's question. I'm just going to move on. We have Ricardo joining us. Yep, is joining us. He says, has anyone faced foot pain after a leg press or squat? Recently it started with my left foot, and the pain is in the space between the heel and the middle of the feet. Yeah, if you're getting foot pain like that, it's probably, there could be a lot of reasons for that. It could be nerve pain. It could be like a nerve impingement or anything like that that's causing this. I mean, there could be a lot of things going on there. I have a video I want you to check out, and it's called Unexplained Finger Pain. All right, I want you to go search for Lee Hayward, Unexplained Finger Pain. Now, I know you're thinking, well, why are you going to suggest a finger pain video when I have foot pain? They're very closely related, because I'll give you a summary of that video. What it was is I had, just out of the blue, this unexplained pain in my index finger, and it just came across one day. I mean, it was just like, what did I do? I don't understand it. It just, my index finger was just hurting like crazy. And I kept thinking, well, maybe it's, I've got a little bit of carpal tunnel syndrome. Maybe that's what's causing it. And I used to do these stretches I do for my carpal tunnel. It didn't help. And I just tried to work my hands and everything else. Couldn't get rid of this finger pain. Didn't know what the heck was going on. Went to my doctor and I explained the situation. And what has happened is I had an impinged nerve in my neck that was causing the finger pain. And basically, like, all the nerves of the body run down through the neck, through the spinal cord, and run out through your arms, through your legs, everywhere. So sometimes if you're getting unexplained pain, and it could be in the extremities, I mean, it could, like, say, it could be in your feet, could be in your hands, could be in your arms, your shoulders, wherever. A lot of times these pains could be the cause of an impinged nerve in your neck. And there's certain exercises that you can do to actually help to better align your head and your spine and everything else, and to take the pressure off those nerves. So I actually started doing these exercises, and within, I would say, a week to 10 days, I noticed an improvement of just regularly doing these neck exercises, and that pain that I had in my finger went away. And knock on wood, hasn't come back since, because I continue to do these neck exercises on a regular basis. So anytime you're getting this unexplained pain, and it's kind of like, weird, why am I getting this pain? It's probably due to an impinged nerve in your neck. And the reason why this is so common is because, you see people, they're on their computers, their head is down, you're on your phone, your head is down. Anytime you do, like, if you're slouching, you got poor posture. I mean, anytime I talk about posture, I purposely try and sit up and have better posture. But if your head is down and you're placing a lot of excess strain on the neck, that can impinge the nerves. And you mentioned squats and leg presses. Just a second, I want to make sure that was, yeah, okay, foot pain after the squat and leg press. So not only are you placing a lot of strain on your feet, but when you're squatting, a lot of pain. You know, you got the weight and the tension across the bar and the shoulders, could be impinging nerves in the back of the neck. Leg press, again, a lot of pressure on your back and stuff. It could be impinging some nerves there somewhere. So, I mean, that could be something to look into. Now, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not analyzing you in person. So, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it's certainly something to look into. And if needed, I would even recommend, you know, go talk to your doctor and see if they can offer some suggestions, or talk to a good physiotherapist who's familiar with this kind of stuff, so that they can analyze your situation and give you some more specific advice when they can see you in person and then kind of, you know, figure out exactly what you've got done. But just based on that, those unexplained pains, sometimes it's nerve impingements. And even if that is not the direct root cause of your particular pain, doing these neck exercises that I mentioned in that video will help anyway, because they can help prevent these nerve impingements from happening in the future. So again, if you're interested in checking that out, just do a search for Lee Hayward unexplained finger pain, and you'll see it. And I go over a whole series of neck exercises that I do, and they're just simple stuff that you can do at home throughout the day. I mean, you don't even need any equipment. All right, let's move on. I'm going to try and bang out another couple questions, and then we'll clue it up for the day. I think this one's from Ross. He's saying, if I was going to the gym on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, which is what I do at the minute on my off days, would it be all right to do a bit of boxing in the gym and work on technique as well? All right, if you're doing boxing workouts, I'm not saying that you can't combine boxing and weight training, because you can, but boxing is high intensity and weight training is high intensity. So, I mean, it's both of them are going to take on your recovery to a degree. So if you are going to combine boxing and weight training, do so, you know, just pay attention to your recovery is all I'm getting at. You know, sometimes you may need to balance things out. Like if you're going extra hard with the boxing training, you might need to scale back on the weight training a bit, and vice versa. If you're going extra hard on the weight training, you may need to scale back on your boxing training a bit, or you just might need to take some more days off to allow for adequate recovery. And this is really an individual thing, because it all depends on your fitness level, your work capacity, right? But when you are combining multiple sports and multiple activities together, just realize that it's not like you can go 100% in weight training and 100% in boxing and then 100% in something else. I mean, you only have 100% total, right? And you kind of like have to split that up over all the different activities that you're doing. So just be aware of that and make sure that you are getting enough recovery in there as well. Because, you know, overtraining, and you can't overtrain and burn yourself out, especially if you're really eager, right? I mean, I'm referring to back in the day when I was like, you know, eager teenager, working out 2 and 3 hours a day, you know, 6-7 days a week. I mean, it was just overkill. Right. And I found that once I slacked off and allowed for more recovery time, that's when I actually made my best progress. So it's kind of unfortunate when you see sometimes people doing too much and limiting their progress because they're working too hard. Right. It doesn't make sense, but it can actually happen sometimes. Now, that's the extreme. But at this, what's more common is you see people who are limiting their progress because they're not doing enough. But, you know, that's a different scenario altogether. You know, you got to find that sweet spot in the middle where you can stimulate growth and still recover from it at the same time. All right, let's see what else we've got. Eisden, I think it is, or Eizidien. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Eizidien. Saying he's having a lot of joint pain. That's a loaded question right there, because what's the root cause of that joint pain could be multiple issues. But one thing that I will mention, when it comes to your workouts, you need to factor in adequate recovery for not only muscle recovery, but for joint recovery. Sometimes if you're doing too much, you know, your joints, tendons, and ligaments need time to recover as well. So that's something, again, if you want to elaborate more on that or whatever, I know we're getting towards the end of the video chat, so I'm kind of getting ready to clue it up. But if you have some more questions and you would like some help, feel free to send me an email and we can discuss this, separately and in private. But again, that I really need to know more information in order to properly answer that one. All right, we have Tim joining us. Hey, how you doing, Tim? Tim is one of my personal coaching students, and he's doing quite well following the training and nutrition program. All right, Robert's joining us. How do you bulk as a pre-diabetic? Do you have any macronutrient recommendations? Yeah, I would recommend a 1/3 split, 1/3 carbs, 1/3 protein, 1/3 fat. If you split up your food in that ratio, you should not have too much troubles even as pre-diabetic. Now, of course, you want to choose the low glycemic carbohydrates and things like that, making sure that you're active, active with your weight training, active with your cardio. But if you eat within those ratios, and of course keep tabs on your blood sugar, you should be able to make it work. With the 1/3 ratio of protein, carbs, and fat, that's actually low carb compared to the average diet, because the average diet is very carb heavy, like especially processed carbohydrates. So if you eliminate the processed carbohydrates and are eating natural unprocessed carbs in a moderate amount, 33% of your calories coming from carbohydrates, again, that is by most standards, that's low, right? So that should not have any implications on being pre-diabetic. In fact, that should actually help with the pre-diabetic. But what I would recommend, chances are, if you are pre-diabetic, you probably have been talking to your doctor, or maybe he's assigned, a dietitian or someone to help you with that. Run this by them and ask them for some suggestions, right? Because, obviously they probably know your situation better than I do and can offer some specific suggestions to help. But that ratio, bumping up your calories in terms of protein and the fat to get your calorie surplus versus just adding more carbohydrates is not going to have an impact on your blood sugar. Okay, let's see what else. All right, just going through some questions here. Okay, Eisden's asking a lot about joint pain again. He's saying, how can I get rid of joint pain? It's really nagging me. It's affecting my workouts. I can't work out intensely. Any supplements that you recommend? There are some supplements that can help, but again, you really need to see what the root cause of that joint pain is. Is it from a pre-existing injury? Is it from inflammation? There's a lot of things. It's such a big thing, and there could be a lot of root cause issues. But again, just kind of throw some things out there that could potentially help. Fish oil, especially omega-3s, some like a good omega-3 supplement, and I personally like to use high concentrated fish oils. That's great for inflammation, reducing inflammation, I should say. So that's good for the joints. Of course, you can look into the things like glucosamine and chondroitin, and that these supplements can help. Vitamin C, another one that's good for helping with joint cartilage. Collagen's another good one. This is something that I've actually been supplementing with recently, and I find that it's helpful. Collagen is good for building up the connective tissues in your joints, and it's also good for your skin, your hair, your nails, all that kind of stuff. But what I do personally is I have a scoop of collagen powder every day, and I'll either throw it in with a smoothie, I'll probably sometimes stir it in with my oatmeal. But I buy the containers of collagen powder. Collagen is protein, but it's a certain type of protein. It's the protein that's basically from connective tissues and cartilage. So it's good for building up those connective tissues and cartilage. So what I'll do is I'll get the containers of collagen. I get the big ones from Costco. That's what I do. And I use just a protein scoop from any other protein tub. So I'm getting, a good 20 plus grams of collagen powder. And like I say, throw that in with a blender smoothie, throw it in with, stir it in with my oatmeal or whatever. It doesn't have much of a taste on it, but it's a great extra source of protein that will help specifically with joints and connective tissue. So that's something that you can look into supplementing with. Turmeric, also good for anti-inflammation as well as aiding with joint health. yeah, I mean, those are some that you can definitely start with, right there. Collagen for one, fish oils. I would, if you're looking for two, those are two that I would start with, and I think that would be a big help. Let's see. All right, I'm going to get ready and clue it up because we have been going for over an hour, as we always do. Okay, just skimming through. What I'm going to do now is I've done this last few video chats. I'm going to jump to the end of the video chat and see. All right, what are some of the last question that was posted here? This one's from Mr. Sikowski, I think it is. Does the use of creatine increase the chance of hair loss? I'm going to say no. I've heard this rumor. I mean, it's kind of like one of these myths out there. You know, oh, creatine is going to cause hair loss. This is going to cause hair loss. What? Bottom line, I think hair loss is, whether or not you're going to lose your hair, is genetic. And the reason why I say that is because I've been using creatine since 1995 is when I started using creatine, and I haven't had any good thick head of hair there, and I haven't had any issues with hair loss. You know, I think it's basically just a genetic thing. And I know a lot of people, a lot of bodybuilders have been using creatine for years and haven't had any issues. And then others do have issues. So, I mean, it's mostly a genetic thing. And where I'm going to refer to this, look at most people you know in your own personal life, like men who have gone bald. Are they using creatine? Probably not. Like when I look at like friends, family, relatives, neighbors, like I can think of maybe a dozen people, you know, who are, I know in my own circle of friends and that family who have issues with hair loss. And none of these people they don't even work out. They're not taking creatine. They're not doing any of this stuff, and they lost their hair. So, I mean, how can you blame the hair loss on creatine, right? It's a genetic factor, right? Some people are just genetically predisposed to lose their hair at an early age. Others aren't. I mean, like I'm looking at my family, my grandfather on my mother's side, he had a full head of hair till the day he died. I think he lived to be 78 years old. And my grandfather on my father's side also lived in the 70s. Bald as that table, right? Never had a hair on his head. So, I mean, like it's and neither one of those guys use creatine or any bodybuilding supplements or anything like that. I mean, this is back in the old days, right? So when it comes to stuff like that, most of it just comes down to genetics. You know, if you're genetically predisposed to lose your hair, you're going to lose it regardless if you use the creatine or not. If you're not genetically, you know, going to lose your hair, it doesn't matter if you use creatine or not. So, I mean, it's not going to make a difference either way. All right, I'm going to clue it up, guys. Thanks again so much for tuning in. I always enjoy doing these video chats with you, and I appreciate all the support. So the way it works now, I did mention, I said, for those of you who are tuning in at the beginning, I said stay tuned to the very end because I was going to share a little bonus with you. What I'm going to be doing is I'm putting together a special training program, and it's going to be a metabolic reboot 5-day challenge where it's going to be an intensive 5-day training program. And I'm going to be doing this on a private Facebook group where I'm going to expect you know, a limited number of people into the challenge. And basically I'm going to be your personal coach for this 5-day challenge, and we're going to dive in deep into the areas of nutrition, into supplementation, and even into training of what you need to do to really get yourself started on the right track. So it's going to be a special 5-day challenge to really help reboot your metabolism, get yourself set up on the right track. So it's going to be an intensive 5-day coaching program. It's something I'm going to be putting together next month. So I just kind of want to give you the heads up that I'm going to be doing this. So if you are interested in this, make sure to keep tabs on my YouTube community tab on the YouTube channel. Follow the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page because I'll be posting, I'll get the phone after. I'll be posting more information about it there. And also, just a second, I'm going to wait for the phone to. Trish, that's your mother if you want to answer it. Okay, hang on. Hello? I'm doing good. How are you? Yeah. Oh, you did really well. Tell you what, yeah, Trish is just busy there now. I'm just going to get her for you. Actually, I'll tell her what. I'll get her to call you back in a few minutes. Yes. All right. All right. Yes, we'll chat later. All right. Bye bye. That's my mother-in-law. There we go. What was I talking about? Phone rings and then whatever train of thought I had is just like a fart in the wind, gone out the window. I lost my total train of thought. Oh yeah, I was talking about my 5-day challenge that I was going to put together. You know, it's a 5-day intensive coaching program, 5-day challenge. And if you want more information, make sure that you're following me on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page. And like I said, I'll give you more information about it. But it's going to be the idea of it is to give you the tools that you need to give yourself that head start, that motivation, that kick in the ass that we all need from time to time to get yourself started on the right track, and then provide you with the tools that you can then use to continue on the progress after that. So make sure to stay tuned and follow me on the Facebook page, because that's where I'll be doing most of the coaching, is through the Facebook page. All right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll have the replay of this posted up and the timestamps with all the questions and all that stuff. I'll get that there within the next 24 hours. You have yourself a great weekend, and I will talk to you next week. Take care. Over and out.